I am your brother in Christ. Welcome to our live stream. Let me make sure this is muted. Okay, we are good to go. Get in position, get all set up. It has been a few weeks since I've done one of these live streams. This is the first one for 2020. Ooh, actually 2020. Wow. I feel old. Feel so odd. Okay, so today's topics that we'll be covering, we're going to do a recap on just what happened as far as what really stuck out in my mind of 2019. After that, we'll roll into talking about happiness and what's commonly the phrase that's most commonly thrown around with that one, that everyone deserves to have their happiness. We'll explore that and actually look at it and say, yeah, is that true? I mean, it's one thing to throw that around, but have you thought through everything? And finally, if my wife does join us, which I hope she will, because that would be fantastic, but we'll be talking about drugs and addiction, because that seems to be a hot spot already this year. Did not take long at all. Not at all. So let's go ahead and dive in. So, last year was mind-blowing. Just how much stuff has occurred. It definitely in my life personally. Politically, we had President Trump still moving along with his, and my wife has now joined us. So when we get to that part, we can talk about it. So far, he seems to be doing a pretty good job. I cannot say that he's any sort of moral beacon of Christian authority, but he's not doing a bad job as far as what he's moving. He repealed Obamacare, at least the requirement that everyone has got to get it or they pay a fine, which this is the first year that we don't have to do that. And that saved my butt something serious, because beforehand, I don't like the government telling me I have to go buy something. I'd rather spend the money the way I want to, and to say, nope, screw your doctors, you got to get this Obamacare, or you've got to pay a fine. When they originally put the concept of socialized healthcare down, one of the things that I pointed out to someone at the time, and just as clarification, 1 second before we dive into that, this is a PG-13 show. No one under the age of 13, please. Thank you. Go away. He's allowed to join us, but not watch. No one is supposed to watch. No looking. It's horrible. Okay. Thank you very much for popping in. I'll be back later. But socialized healthcare. The major problem I see with socialized healthcare, well, at least some of the major problems, is one, and I got in a discussion with someone about this where he was pro and I was taking the against it approach. Socialized healthcare does not end up helping. You can look at a lot of the other countries that have already accepted socialized healthcare. They come here for their healthcare, which is a very bad sign. I know up in Canada, they have horrendous wait times. My cousins of mine live up there, and they rather not go to the doctors if it can be avoided. There are long wait periods. There's up to 6 weeks. There's at least one case I heard of a lady with a broken leg had to wait 6 weeks to be seen. That's not to get a cast. That's to be seen when she went to the emergency room. That's pretty bad. That is really bad. I'd rather get seen the day of. I mean, I broke 3 bones in my foot. We weren't sure if they were actually broken. I did this when I was a little kid. We weren't sure that they were broken. And we do not run to the hospital unless someone is dying or there is a real apparent need. So we waited 3 days, and that was horrible. And then we went in, and they immediately saw me because they're like, "What the Phil Fowl are you doing not being in here? It's been 3 days. Why haven't you been in here to see the doctor?" So to wait that long the increased wait periods is insane. On top of that, the guy I was having this discussion with pointed out, said, hey, don't you care about people? Don't you want to help people? Well, one, that's a personal attack, and that's freaking insulting. Two, if I'm choosing to help someone, if I have someone that needs to go in, I know they need help, I can choose to help pay their bills. What I can't do is choose once socialized healthcare is put in place. I can't choose who to help. I can't choose to define what is a necessary treatment from something that is insane. Whoever's in power gets to decide that, and I get to shut up, sit down, and pay extra every year for Timmy to go have his gender reassignment therapy because someone decided that was critical, even though there's absolutely no science to back that at all. So that's one of the major issues, and he kept going off on, oh, it's a slippery slope argument. Yes! Slippery slope arguments are legit. I pointed out at the Boy Scouts when I was a Boy Scout master. I said, hey, if we compromise our original stance on homosexuality, before long they'll be starting to push other agendas. And a couple years later, transgender walked right in, and it's like, okay, they decided to go down this route. They've decided to increase the insanity. I can't be a part of this. You're leaving yourself, the Boy Scouts left themselves wide open to too many problems, and they are having one crazy amount of time with that. But leaving yourself, the slippery slope argument has a point when you can look back and say, no, we started down this path, and this didn't work out so well last time, or any other time that we've ever done it. Just the same with socialism. Never works. Never works. Based upon one key identity, and no Christian can actually be pro-socialist because of this major, I guess, difference of opinion on the state of humanity. If you believe that humanity is inherently corrupt, at least the humanity that we have now, the fallen humanity, is inherently corrupt, socialism can't work. It will never work. Because no matter how many times you do it, people are corrupt and they will gain the system and try to take advantage of it. If humanity is inherently perfect from birth, which is not in any Christian doctrine that I know of, because it's kind of spitting in the face of the cross itself, then socialism could work if you had perfect people. But as every Christian out there knows, we ain't perfect. Not a single one of us. So that doesn't work. That's one of the major problems with it. Problem number two, and this one I really stuck him with. He really took a step back and admitted that I was right at this, because this was kind of the kibosh to the entire conversation. I said, okay, so socialized healthcare is healthcare that is run by the government. The answer is yes, of course it's run by the government. That's the whole concept. Here lies the problem. When has the government ever run anything effectively without corruption? That's the end of it, right there. Socialized healthcare will not work. If I want to help someone else out, I can help pay their medical bills. But there is by no means forcing me at gunpoint. It is by gunpoint. Because if you follow the logic, no matter how you say it, it is by gunpoint. I've got in conversations with people before where they're like, no. The government would never do it at gunpoint. It's not at gunpoint. It's just increased in taxes. So I said, okay, what happens if I don't pay my taxes? Well, then they'll add a fee to it. And what happens if I don't pay the fee? Then the fee increases. Repeat, I don't pay it. What happens? The police show up. And what do the police have? Guns. The logic. Boom, boom, boom. It's actually very basic. Basic train of thought. But so Obama put that in place, and Trump did appeal this year, which I was pretty excited about. At least I didn't want to have to pay extra to do it, because I was looking at not having healthcare this year, and I was like, oh, we have an extra couple of $1,000 fine if I qualify, and if I make enough money, and get into this sort of cast, and I'm already paying 30% on taxes. 30%. 30%. Think about it. 30%, and then they wanted more. They wanted more. Think about that. Every dollar I get, 30 cents of it goes away. If I get $100, I only actually, after taxes, get $70. So if I were working minimum wage, and I get $15 an hour, even if that's the crazy up there number, $5 of that goes to the government. You know, if I'm getting $8 an hour, which is realistic minimum wage, and I don't even like the concept of minimum wage, because the government should not be in the business of ordering how their time and effort is worth, what they're actually worth. I should be able to dictate what my skill set and my abilities are actually worth in a free market society. But instead, the minimum wage says, no, you don't get to decide, we get to decide with you, and the government gets to run it. And I go back to point number 2, which, has the government ever run anything right? No! So that's good. We also started off with, I believe they're still talking about it at the beginning of the year. It's been such a long time. It feels like it's been such a long time since the beginning of 2019. But at the beginning of that year, I believe they're still talking about the Trump-Russia collusion. That was a thing, and they were going to get him with that, and that fell apart. And now they're still sitting on their butt with this whole impeachment. They're still sitting on their butt saying, hey! Right before Christmas, they're like, oh, we're going to put this up for election. We're just going to throw it out there. Yeah, we're going to have this for a vote. Let's do this. Let's have this vote. Never mind. We'll just keep this for next year. We'll shelve it for now. Because I know as soon as they pass it along, it's going to be crushed. Because there's nothing. No one would convict on this. No judge would say he's guilty if this was in any other case. If you remove Trump and remove the political aspect, you would get nothing. There's no actual evidence. So that's really falling apart. If anything, that's blowing up in their face and really making them look really bad. I would be highly surprised if Trump does not get reelected, just because. And this is what really gets me. If I was sitting down and I said, you know what? If the Democrats' plans were really to re-elect Trump, I really want to re-elect Trump, and I'm in charge of all the Democrats, this is exactly what I would do in order to get him re-elected. Because no matter what, the harder they try to get him, the better he looks. And the problem is, people like me and a lot of other people who actually do disagree with what he says as far as Twitter goes, as far as how he treats people, end up defending him more times than not, and then we feel like we're attacked constantly. It feels like we are constantly attacked, and that polarizes us to be on his side more than being open to switching to the Democrat side. This is not how you do it. This is basic logic again. You just follow the bouncing ball. It's not that complicated. So that's basically the political side of it. YouTube YouTube's still YouTube. Still trying to kill itself. I made mention of it a couple times before earlier this year about how YouTube's trying to kill itself and how YouTube's really screwing over us, the creators. I've also made recommendations that if you like the content that I put out, go to BitChute. Find me there. The link's in the description. Go to Minds. I'm very active on Minds. Follow me there. Those are the places that are easy enough to follow me, and so far I'm not being threatened to be destroyed in either of those. And when they decide they want to kill me, I will move to somewhere else. And I'll let you guys know before I do that. So enough on politics, enough on YouTube. So recapping, just, you know what, let me make this personal. Recapping my personal life. Holy cow! There's been massive changes in the last year. We finished this nice workshop / recording studio. Wow. Workshop, and I record in it. Yeah, that's how it actually works, because my company's the one that actually... We actually did the we intended it for a workshop, and that's what we did it for. Workshop / man cave, but we won't get into that! For obvious reasons, because I have a wife!
Hey.
And then later on that year, at the beginning of the year, we're doing all this modification. We're fixing up this place. We're getting it ready, getting it insulated, getting it all set. And it's going to be really cool. I'll have all this storage. It'll be really nice for the business that I took over from my dad last year. And then we had our son. We had little boy. And everything changes. People always told me, everything is going to change when you have your first kid. It's going to change your whole perspective on life. And I said, yeah, I know it's going to change my whole perspective on life. I didn't know how I was going to change my perspective on life. I was so not prepared. So not prepared. It is astounding how much my life has shifted. Because we got married. And then, what? 10 months later, we had little boy. So my life shifted from bachelor to husband. I get to be husband 1 month later. Oh, we're pregnant. What? So I switched from husband to husband and daddy. And I'm like, okay. Oh, this can't be that much different.
Yeah.
No. Oh, little boy blew my mind. That was crazy. So I become a daddy, and I get to meet my son for the first time, and it is absolutely amazing. I get to watch him grow and get to guide him and help him, and it is absolutely beautiful. There is nothing that I could actually compare it to. It really isn't. To be completely responsible, and I think that's really where it hit me one time when I'm walking back and forth from our workshop, which ends up being workshop and plus other stuff too. And I was carrying a little boy, and it really hit me that this child is completely and utterly dependent on me. He cannot live without me. He cannot grow without my constant assistance. He needs me absolutely and completely. And I, as his father, absolutely and completely need him. It's not a one-way street. I'm making my wife cry. Just through these 7 months that I have watched him grow, I have changed so much from what I was originally. Year and a half ago, before I was married, we were married a year and a half ago. well, over a year and a half ago. Before I was married, I would not know who I was going to become in just such a short time. God has radically changed who I am and has grown me as a man to such a degree that sometimes my head's spinning and I can't even imagine my life back then because I was so simple, I'd say, so small. My just my mind and how I was thinking and what I was thinking of and how I was dealing with things was so small in comparison to what I'm now experiencing as a father and as a husband. No longer just living a life, doing whatever I want. I mean, everything that we do is really oriented around my son. It really is. Everything that, if we're going somewhere, we have to plan that we're going to be there earlier. Here in a couple weeks, we have a LinkedIn event that we are going, a Christian LinkedIn event that we're helping sponsor, and we're going to go there, and we're going to take part of it and help promote this. And who knows, by then, after that, someone might be watching this video. We've got a plan to be there hour or greater, just to make sure that we are there on time. Because lo and behold, we're ready to walk out the door. We're all set, and he just pooped through. And now we gotta clean him up. We gotta clean his clothes. We gotta get everything ready. We gotta get him set, because we're not going to make him sit in a poopy diaper the entire day, or until we get to wherever we're driving. No. So we gotta stop everything we're doing and take care of him before we can move on. It's a changing of priorities that has really been flipped, because as a single guy, my priorities were, well, I need to walk with Christ, develop my spiritual walk, and grow as a person. You know, go to work, come back home, I get to use the money the way I want to, set aside for tithe. When I got married, it's no longer my money, it's our money and our life. So everything I did, and my wife's a stay-at-home wife, and she gets to be here raising our son. And at that point, it was our money. So everything we did together. We were never apart. That first year, we were together the entire year. We never spent a night apart. But we were together, so I always had to orient everything I did, had to either include her or she was doing something else. And that was a shift from one person to two people. And then when we made the jump from two people to three people, it really did radically change. Because now, like I said, we had to plan everything around little boy, and this really does show characteristic of God, because he is 3-in-1. He does have a relationship. He desires a relationship with us, and this really shows me definitely being the father and the son. I mean, the love that I have for my son is so small in comparison to what God actually feels for us. But yet, I cannot imagine with my mind, I cannot imagine any stronger love than what I have for my son. But I know that God's love for us is so much more. So, other than make my wife cry, that would be definitely one of the major changes in our life as we're going. And again, I said I did take over my dad's business, so I had all that shift over to go, where I was an employee of his for 10 years. And then I took it over, and now I'm responsible for that. And I've got to make sure the company runs, and I got to make sure everything gets done. And there's a lot of stuff that I did not take care of when I was just an employee. So, whew. That makes your head spin a little bit when you've got all those changes, getting this workshop up and running, getting the company to continue to run and function under new management. At the same time, make sure that I'm a husband and a father, trying to do the best that I can. And let me tell you, if you ever had a problem with your parents, they are making this up as they go. Okay, most of this is by the seat of their pants, okay? You ever been on a roller coaster? Yeah, that's how your parents probably felt the entire time you were growing up as a kid. Up and down and all around. Definitely they had to chase you. All around. So I guess that was basically the year for us. So, starting this year off, I felt pretty good. I felt like we were in a good place. The company was doing decent. It was still rolling along, and it's rolling pretty good. Little boy's growing like a weed, moving around now, getting into all sorts of trouble. And not this Friday. I took a break for a couple weeks just for Christmas, and then we got whammied by something else right after Christmas, and this going into this new year, because it's already been crazy this new year. My grandfather on my dad's side, I met him when I was like 3. He lives out quite a ways away. He lives quite a way away from us, and he lives out in Arizona. We were contacted last year, and we made the conversation because he had some physical problems. He was having problems with his hands. He had a screwed up surgery on his neck. The doctor really messed up, and basically had severe problems with his vertebrae basically collapsing. So he was losing control of his hands. They were getting numb, and he's someone that's always worked with his hands. And just to be in his standpoint alone during that would be traumatic, because you're going from someone who is used to doing everything with their hands and being independent and take care of everything themselves to, oh shoot, I can't do that anymore. I can't unscrew something. I can't, grab that quite right. I can't use a screwdriver anymore. And just to have that go down, so we were talking originally that this was an issue and that he would have to eventually rely on someone. So we thought, oh, sure, you know what? We all had a meeting, and my dad just looked at us and said, hey, your grandfather, you guys don't know him very well. My dad and a couple of my brothers were able to see him. He said, you know what? What if he moved in with us? Is that something we'd be willing to do? And the family absolutely just completely agreed, yes, you should come move in. This grandfather that I've never met before, we should help him as much as possible. Now, eventually, he would need more severe help as far as 24-hour help that we couldn't provide. So we would have to eventually have him into a nursing home. But at that point, he would be here local with us, and we can go visit him. Right now, he does have some family relatives down there, primarily his sister, his older sister, actually. But they are winter birds. They were only down there for a couple months out of the year, and they go back up north just for a winter. So he lives in Arizona, not far from Las Vegas, actually. So we are looking and saying, you know what? It's going to be a massive change for him, but we will make the room. We'll make any sacrifice we need to. He is family. We want him to be with us. Absolutely. So we made that decision, and nothing came of it. Fast forward to not last Friday, but the Friday before, and boom! We get a call from my great aunt, I believe it is. And she lets us know that, hey, he's doing really bad. He is having severe problems now. He's moving very slow. He's basically not able to live on his own anymore. So we had after that, we had a sit down meeting. We said, okay, we're going to help him. No matter what, we still agree. We need to help him. His family, we want to be there. For most of his life, he was not following Christ. Recently, he has come to know the Lord. I'm like, you know what? This is critical for his spiritual development. As far as continuing to walk with the Lord, we want to shine the light of Christ into his life. We understand that this is going to cost every one of us a lot. But we want to make sure that my grandfather is taken care of. He's moved back in this area, and he has someone there in case something happens. And when he eventually gets to that point where he needs a nursing home, we can go visit him weekly or even, multiple times a week. If it's in a place on the way back from work, I just swing by there, see how he's doing, just pop in. I'm actually his namesake, so I was kind of really psyched because, again, the only time I've ever met him is when I was like 3 or 4, and I have no memory of him. So I do remember that there was a nice stream next to his house, and I really loved playing in that stream. But that's all I remember about the time that we visited him. So I was looking forward to it. I was psyched. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I know that's going to be hard, but hey, it's family. You got to do what you got to do for your friends and family. So we got to open it up and get them in here. So that was 2 Fridays ago. So we looked and we put everything on the board. Having architects come out, take a look at the place, design extra stuff around, look at what it would take to put in in-law suite. If we put in an in-law suite, where would we put it? And just look at that and getting quotes from him and what it would take, and getting a contractor in to start looking at putting things up and start putting this building up, and look at what it'd take to get the paperwork all set and ready to go and all this stuff. Sorry. So we went through and we had our second meeting with the architect. So he went through, we did initial design, second meeting with the architect. Right after the second meeting with the architect, we get an email. It seems that before that, we knew that he was having some problems. He had to go in the hospital. He had pneumonia as well as an infection that they're trying to fight off. But after he recovered from that, the plan was still for him to come up here and live with us. We're still looking forward to it. We're excited about it. After that architect, we had another meeting, and lo and behold, he really has taken a turn for the worst. They are looking at, once he recovers, he will not be able to do a long trip, which is what we would need. So he's going to have to be in a nursing home down there. That being said, on top of that, my great aunt, because of her needs and her family needs, she needs to be up north more. So she's going to have to sell her place down there, and she can't be down there. So my grandfather is looking at being at a nursing home down there. And tell you truthfully, I don't like him being down there. I'd rather him be up here where family's around him, and we can really just be with him during this time. We're looking at making a trip down there to do that sometime once he's recovered. But it seems that his body's having a hard time recovering from this because of the botched surgery. That seems to be just making everything worse. So, and that news was dropped on us yesterday, and that really took the wind out of our sails because we were all excited. We put all this work in, ready to go, really just stoked for him to be with us. He's not going to be able to. At those points in your life, it is We just have to turn it over to God. We really do. Because no matter what, we know that God is in control. That this is by his will. And we know that as long as we are walking in the Lord's will, we're walking in that relationship with Christ, and we're pursuing him, that everything else will fall in line. And in the end, it will be for our good, no matter what that actually means. Because our good, our short-sighted, little-minded concept of good is not what our long-term good really is. So that's basically our year in a nutshell, right there. So crazy year, but walking with the Lord, keeping our sights on him, everything else will fall in place, no matter how hard it gets. So, and maybe God will just come down and he'll say, nope, my grandfather will recover to a place that he can still come up here and be with us. If he can, hallelujah. I would love that. Absolutely and completely just love that. I don't know if he will. But whatever God's will is, I surrender to it. So, going on to our next topic. Now that we are actually done with the recap. So the truth about happiness. Happy all the time. Oh boy. I gotta do that for you guys sometime. We did, speech. What is it called?
Advent calendar, or no, Advent.
An Advent.
Service.
An Advent service reading. My wife and I redid it, and I would like to read that to you guys sometime. It's not going to be today. But definitely sometime in the future I'd like to do that. In fact, I'd like to go through all the Advents at some point, maybe next year, and just redo them and release it, and anyone can use those, of course. I love for the Lord to be just praised through that. So, this came off of a conversation I had with some people about happiness. A common phrase that is passed around is, everyone deserves to be happy, right? Everyone deserves to be happy. But is that true? I mean, does everyone actually deserve to be happy? Let's actually apply this. But if happiness, who defines that happiness? Is it individuals that define that happiness? That's just insane. I mean, if you think about it, when you're a child, do you deserve to be happy all the time as a child? As a dad, I'd say no. Why? Because my son's happiness is playing with an electric cord and chewing on it. At least that's what he believes will make him happy. No! I do not want my son electrocuted. A Muslim terrorist will believe that he'll be happy if he kills infidels in the name of Allah. Should we let him? No! A depressed person may believe that he will be happy if they commit suicide. Should we give him a loaded gun? A cheating spouse may truly believe, that the pleasure they are getting will make them happy. Should we enable them? An alcoholic believes that the next drink that they are going to take will make them happy. Should we drive them to a bar? A drug addict believes that the next shot will make them happy. Should we clean the needles? We, as limited beings as we are, our concept of happiness is so limited. We don't actually understand the depth of happiness and what God really wants for us. It's not because our desire for happiness or our desire for anything is too strong and we just can't resist. No, it's because it's too weak. It's because we are satisfied messing around with these little trifles when God has something so much more amazingly astounding. But yet we play around with sex and with drugs and with different forms of entertainment to give us this temporary happiness when God, even though he knows that it might cause us some discomfort as we are growing, wants us to have true happiness, wants us to experience that to the fullness of everything he intends for us. And to actually get that, C.S. Lewis really did put it in the best light. Our desires are not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling around with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in the slum, because he cannot imagine what is meant by a holiday at the sea. We are far too easily pleased. That's C.S. Lewis. Absolutely love his writings. But he's right. We compromise ourselves. We compromise what we believe in. We compromise who we are in order to get these very temporary pleasures, or to make it seem like we are cool, even. I mean, how many Christians compromise the Bible in order to seem like the Bible doesn't say anything about homosexuality being a sin, even though it is plain right there in multiple verses saying, no, it's wrong to do this. Yet many Christians will say, no. We will ignore that because we want to love everyone and everyone deserves to be happy. No, because we know what that will cost. We will not compromise ourselves and allow people to do something that will harm themselves, just because we want to make this false happiness happen. So that's the truth of happiness. We are too easily pleased with small trifles. I think of my son, actually. He can be... It's amazing to see how happy even the smallest thing can be. A rolled up piece of paper can make him so overjoyed. Just to have that rolled up piece of paper. And there's a joy in that happiness and that contentment of just, hey, I'm good to go. But yet, he doesn't know what might be on that piece of paper. He doesn't know what that might be. That might be a rolled up $100 bill, and he doesn't understand the concept of what that is. But he's happy just playing with it, and if we don't take it away from it, it will go in his mouth. Just like everything. But that's to be expected because he is a child. He's a baby and he doesn't know any better. So he must be guided lovingly. And that is really what we're called to do as Christians, is to help others in love. Not because I don't want my son to have fun, I take the electric cord away from him, but because I don't want him to become a replacement for our Christmas tree. My wife laughs at that. I have a very poor sense of humor. But that being the case, I don't want him to come to harm. And even though he thinks that'll make him happy, I know for a fact it will not. It'll make him a light for like 5 seconds. So let's go ahead and roll right along into our last topic. drugs and addiction. Oh, this is such a fun topic to be talking about. This really is brought along because of David Wood. We do I endorse, and support everything that David Wood is doing with his ministry, Acts 17 Apologetics. We are fully behind him. But as this year started, his family's had a bit of a rough time. His brother overdosed, ended up in the hospital. He's been in the hospital for weeks in a comatose state. I mean, he's just breathing tubes, everything. His mother, who has a heroin problem, was taking care of him there. And yet, even seeing the problem in front of her, of what heroin has done, or these drugs have done to her son, still went back and shot up in her, I guess, hotel room, wherever she was staying. And she died. She passed away there, doing the same thing that had her son in the hospital. Not because she thought it through, but because the addiction was so strong. And she had been clean for quite some time. But because she was in that situation or slipped up, it allowed for the enemy to have that stronghold again, and they take advantage. We have an enemy who wants our destruction. We have a lot of pastors and a lot of churches now go away from, oh no, we don't want that fire and brimstone stuff. That stuff's stuff of the past. And I've been told that on YouTube. Oh no, you should stay away from that because, that just doesn't appeal to anyone anymore. That's just stuff from the past. We don't want to touch it. We have an enemy who wants to seek us out and destroy everything we are. He wants to devastate us. He wants to make us suffer. He has taken many things away from me. And things that I really didn't want to get taken away because of other sin has been taken away. Specifically, I'm talking about the Boy Scouts. I loved being a Scoutmaster. But because of the corruption of this nation and the corruption within the Boy Scouts themselves, I could no longer, in good conscience, be part of that, even though I loved and still do love the boys there. Oh, it was so much fun when we were there. But because of that evil and that corruption, I could no longer stand by and enable something that I knew would destroy lives. I knew that lying and saying that you can be whatever gender that day you decide, and it really doesn't matter, is going to lead to so many lives destroyed that I could not stand by. And in the same way, the enemy will take any foothold they get. And if you're dealing with some sort of addiction, some sort of struggle, some sort of problem, let it be pornography, let it be drugs, let it be gambling, I mean, anything, seek help. Get help. Because the enemy's plans, their best strategies, all revolve around you being isolated. They will lie to you, tell you that there's no way you could ever be understood by anyone else. This struggle you're going through is, no one else ever has this struggle. Everyone else is perfect, and you're the screw up. Because what they'll do is they'll tell you that this thing is so great, it's so wonderful, it's so fantastic, you've got to get this. And as soon as you get it, they'll turn on you and say, how dare you do that? How dare you have done this? Don't you see how guilty you are? You gotta take more of it, because then you can feel better. because of how bad you are, because of how guilty you are, because of how messed up you are. And no one will understand you. That is such a lie. Now, I have never had a drug addiction. I've had a pornography addiction. I've had that. And addictions are similar in a lot of ways. And believe it or not, those are actually pretty close as far as chemicals in the brain goes. So I cannot say that I know exactly what you've gone through. What I can say is I've had to struggle with stuff like that before. It's hard. It's ridiculously hard. And impossible if you try to break it yourself. You need and must get help. You don't want to look bad. You don't want people to worry about you. You don't want... Do it anyway. Do it because that's the only way out. And guess what? Even if you are burdening someone with your problems, which you're really not, that's another lie from the enemy. It really is. Because other Christians are there to help you. We are there to enable. And if no one needed help, then what opportunity do we have to serve the Lord? The situation with my grandfather, when I was talking about that, it was a great opportunity for us to help him. Because by helping him, we could serve the Lord. And I was so looking forward to helping him. Because I knew that even though it's going to be a problem, it'll be a blessing for us both. And that's where it really is. Whenever you ask for help or reach out to someone, you are blessing them just as much as they are going to bless you. And giving opportunities for both of you to grow in Christ together. So, my wonderful wife, do you have anything to add? Or should I revert them or point them to you for your own video?
Is there anything?
It's not picking up. Yeah. Okay. She is preoccupied doing her job and taking care of a little boy, which she does a great job at. So she is unavailable at this time. But I know her testimony is in the works, if not posted. Did you post yet?
The text version.
She has posted text, but she has not posted her testimony, and she goes into in depth of her struggles. And she has had drug addiction, and she goes much more in depth with that. Some of the issues with drug addiction that I know of just from the outside looking in. I know that one, it's an expensive addiction. In order to enable that addiction, some people will turn to actually dealing. I know that my uncle has looked like he was dealing, if not just dealing with it, and he ended up getting convicted, and he is spending time for it. And hopefully this wakes him up. But he was dealing with drug issues, and he was having a hard time with it. My family's been very hit by it, as far as my no, there you are. My uncle has had to deal with it and had severe problems. He is not walking with the Lord at this point. We are still praying for him. We're still looking for him to do that. But at this point, it does not seem like he is turning to the Lord. I know my cousin. Well, my cousin has taken so much and relied on drugs to such an extreme that she has messed up her mind. She is not all there. And to tell you truthfully, I'm extremely worried for her. Because I don't know, at least nothing of this world, at least nothing physical that I know of, can bring her back from where she has gone. It would have to be an act of God, and I pray for her quite often as just needing this help and needing God's intervention for this. Let me go ahead and turn it over to my wife. Make a spot for you. Come on in.
Hola.
Come in. So you're not blurry. Dog on camera. There we go. A little bit better.
Blurry doesn't show my messy hair.
Oh, yes, so that's the truth. Okay.
Okay, so on that note, as far as like things I've personally seen, multiple of my friends at the time, while I was into that lifestyle of doing whatever we could in order to get what we thought we needed, what we thought would make us happy, I mean, they turned to prostitution, like, and that's not something that, like, that's not something that you would think someone would be quick to do, especially, people who have any shred of, self-respect and something that they want privacy and stuff. And I know, first of all, how many dangers there are with that, but it really screwed them up even more because they would do these things like random people they've never met before in order to get this stuff, and then it'd be gone in like 3 seconds, and it'd be like, oh, now what? Now I have to do it again and again and again, and they'd come back from doing these things, and they'd be like, man, like, I am so empty. I am like, what am I doing with my life? But they were so trapped. They trapped themselves so deep and dug deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole. And it's like, where did they have to go? I mean, and they didn't have that relationship with Christ. They ran away from it. And it's like, man, I know how much, because they were hurting, they continued to hurt themselves. And it's so sad.
And it keeps feeding on itself.
Yeah.
Because you get more in order to feel not as bad, but then after that's weared off, you feel worse. And you just keep digging yourself deeper into this hole with this addiction, and you just have to get more to get fixed. Get the fix, get the high, and then you're low again. And their whole life becomes oriented around this concept of, I have to be high all the time, or I have to get enough money, or whatever it takes. And I know that a lot of people have problems with thievery, will do anything it takes to get that. I know my cousin's like that. You can't trust her with anything, because she will take any advantage she has in order to get drugs, in order to get what she wants, in order to get high so she doesn't feel bad. And it's messed her up. She's had so many legal problems. Other than, wife knows it, other than, like I said, other than an act of God, I don't understand how someone could come back from that far. And again, that's the only thing I can really offer up at this point, is prayer and fasting to hopefully see her redeemed in some way. And she's not, this is another lie of the enemy. You're not an island of your own. You really aren't. I'm going to scooch up so I'm not fuzzy. You're not an island. You're not on your own. Whatever you're doing is affecting other people. My cousin, for example, what she's doing is affecting her parents. She also has 2 kids, and it affects them. It affects everyone in the family. I mean, it is just a ripple effect where one person who is willing to do anything they can to fulfill their personal desire of happiness, or whatever they think will make them happy, is damaging an entire family. And yet, in truth, they're never going to be truly satisfied, no matter how many drugs they take. And you might be of the mindset, and I know plenty of people are, that's like, no, I have got this under control. I can take care of this. The answer is you can't. The answer is, if you're allowing something to control your life that's not God, that's not Christ, you're going for destruction. That's all it is. Christ loves you. God loves you. The drugs don't. The drugs will use you and leave you. And in the end, you'll be a broken person, or even pornography or any other addiction that's out there. They will use you and abandon you. And in the end, you will feel more empty than if you've never taken them to begin with. And in the end, the price that you will have to pay for that momentary second of happiness will cost you everything. And not only you, but all your family relatives, everyone that's around you. It will take everything away from you if you allow it. So please, get some help. And there are so many people who have gone through similar struggles. That's one of the lies, definitely whenever I was dealing with my addiction, that the enemy used was, no, you're all alone. There's no one that can understand what you're going through. That's such a lie. Because there are so many people who have struggled with addictions, every sort of addiction. And if you're part of a church congregation, find someone who has struggled with this and confide in them. Try to get help. Because if you're in a good Christian environment, they love you and they want to see you become the best person that you can be, and they want to see you grow in relationship with Christ, and they want to see you enter into the kingdom of heaven one day. They know that you can't do that if you're holding on to this anchor of addiction. That all it will do is cause you to sink. And in the end round. Let's go ahead and... Do you have any last comments?
Yeah, I have a couple of things of advice. First of all, if you are in this situation or tempted by the situation of any form of addiction, and even if you're not really, this one applies to everyone across the board, please hear me on this. Yes, we are supposed to be in the world and not of it. But do not deceive yourself into surrounding yourselves by people that call themselves Christians and are not. Because for me, that was a huge stumbling block. I was very sick, and so I was not able to attend church for many years. My schedule was all flip-flopped when I was able to get up and around. I wasn't able to do that. So the Christians I surrounded myself with were the people who were up into the late hours of the night getting into lots of trouble, and that's what I had as a representation of Christianity. And so I thought, oh, well, they're doing these things, that's fine, and it just made it so much worse. So please, if you see someone who's not living in the way of Christ, do not be deceived by the wolves in sheep's clothing. Surround yourselves with true Christians. Don't try to make yourself feel better because, oh, well, they're Christian and they're fine, so I'm fine. Nip that in the bud, please, please, please. For everyone. Which is why I think that's so important when it's emphasized in the Bible. Like, yeah, it's fine to be friends with people who aren't Christians, but don't associate yourself with fake Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is, for anyone who has not gotten into this stuff, yeah, please don't be tricked by thinking, oh, it'll be just this one time or this one thing in this one way. For me, it was just this one sip of alcohol, and then it was like, well, I didn't have any problems in this 0.3 seconds. Let me just get all wasted, and then it was like, well, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe that's not the best for me. I'll just do these other drugs. Well, that's not good enough, so I'll just do them both. Well, getting kind of bored of this same old. Let me introduce some more. Well, this really isn't helping all the time, and I don't really have access to all of them all the time, so I should just do everything I can at any opportunity I get. And so many people before I got into all this, health teachers, whatever, adults, those dumb, ignorant people were like, it's slippery slope. don't get into anything Gateway. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never done that stuff. Like, you don't know me. I'm better than all that stuff. No, I was not. So please put some brakes on it before you're going over the mountain, because once you're over, it's a lot harder to get back up than it is to put the brakes on and reverse gear. And the third thing I'd like to say is, in 1 second.
Technical difficulties, well, baby difficulties. Little boy's having a bit of a issue. Hey, welcome back. Hey, buddy. Hey, wonderful boy. Okay.
The third thing I'd like to say is for anyone who is trying to get out, it will not be easy. And you need to be okay with that. Because the longer you put it off, because you're scared of how hard it will be, the harder it will be. There is so much time where I went back and forth before I made my decision. And it was like, well, I don't know, maybe, nah, I don't want to deal with that. No, it's fine. I'll look into this stuff later. I'll look into, the reasons why I shouldn't. I'll really listen to God's answer later, because I'm scared, it's easier to keep doing what I'm doing. And, yeah, but it was really hard to stop. I'm so glad that I did, and part of that was being open and honest with people, because if you can't be honest, you're going to have problems with recognizing the problems in yourself. You're going to have problems recognizing everything, and you have to really assess the situation and be truthful with yourself and everyone else about it. Being honest with my parents was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And like your brother in Christ was saying earlier, it's not, you're not an island. It really does affect other people, and other people still are affected to this day by the things that I've done. My parents, they're still, like, they've learned that they can trust me again, but there's still moments for all of the people in my life who there's just little jabbing pains once in a while. It's like, oh, yeah, that happened. You lied to us about all this stuff. You did all this stuff behind our backs. All this stuff. But because I was able to be honest about it and stop when I did, I stopped a whole lot worse of that stuff from happening down the road. And, obviously, I would not be able to have a happy, healthy boy if I was still in that lifestyle. In fact, I would have never even been able to have my lovely husband if I was still in that. I would maybe not even be alive. I mean, God spared my life so many times, and I am glad I was not God having to make those judgment calls, because I do not deserve to be here right now. But it is worth stopping. It is worth getting help, and surround yourselves with people who are Christians and who really do care more about you than they care about cutting up the Bible in order to suit whatever they want to hear. And really, a lot of that's on you. Don't just have tingling ears searching for whatever you want to hear. So, that's my advice.
Okay, so let's go ahead and end with prayer. Lord, we just turn over all of these situations to you. As we talked about today, the situations with this nation, with how it's going, with the lies and deceit that are going on, we turn over to you because you know the truth. No matter what happens to this nation, you know the truth. And if this nation is to stand as a moral beacon for your glory and your honor, so be it. If this nation is to fall as a testimony to what happens when when a nation turns their back completely and utterly to you in favor of depravity, so be it. Let your will and your glory reign in all things. I also ask for your hand just to be with my grandfather in this entire situation with him. I ask that you be with him and comfort him, as he is far away from us and we are not able to visit him nearly as much as I would love to. I ask for your hand to be upon him and grow close, and please bring him closer to you as he goes through this situation. Last of all, I pray for anyone who is struggling with with addictions or problems. I pray that you will strengthen them, fortify their resolve to get help, and really make it apparent how they can get out of these sort of situations. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.